Welcome to Great Shot. This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. On today's show, we've got another edition of The Deciding Point for all of you listeners, our weekly breakdown of all of the action happening across the Division I men's college tennis world. Of course, it was a fantastic weekend of action across the country. Certainly, we've got some things to celebrate here on this show. Now, normally we record this podcast over on and I apologize if it's my audio that started loud, has gotten a little bit quiet. We are back to normal now. See, that's the fun of recording live, folks. So I apologize to all of you who heard that on the podcast as well. I think I was too excited for my microphone on the
Someone
intro
finally
there.
Muted your woo.
Yeah, exactly. The audio box rebelled against me, but obviously some of the storylines we got to hit here on today's show. The Michigan Wolverines re-announcing their presence here on the national stage. They didn't just beat Ohio State and Baylor. They beat them both 4-0. And obviously, we want to talk about those performances, our takeaway from those matches. Of course, we've got some other teams we got to discuss as well. In particular, we've often been accused of a Power 5 bias, but we got to get into some non-Power 5 results here today. In particular, I want to talk about Harvard's West Coast swing. I want to talk about a bunch of those non-Power 5 teams as well. Pepperdine, Memphis, Middle Tennessee, the works. Who is still in the running for a top 16 seed? Who are the teams that we should be watching out for as we approach conference play? Of course, got to get to some of the Power 5 as well. And we will, in our best of the rest segment, we'll play our usual game of good win, bad loss. We'll get to the rankings. We'll get to our crossoffs, the computer rankings, the week ahead as well. So much for us to discuss here on today's show. And for those of you who are tuning in to our live stream here on YouTube, appreciate all of you who are willing to join us an hour early today. Now, I would have started at our normal 7 o'clock, but Matt, Chris, they insisted. They were like, Alex, we have to watch the Michigan game at 7:30. We have to start at 7 p.m. I was like, guys, are you sure? Because who cares about basketball when there's college tennis to discuss? They're like, no. We have to watch Michigan. We need your Wolverines to lose. We need you to be brought back down to earth. I can understand that inclination. I can understand that feeling. So again, I appreciate all of you who are joining us an hour early. I do promise that we will be back to our normal time, 7 p.m. Eastern, moving forward and throughout the rest of the season. With all of that said, you've already heard from them. Of course, if you're watching live, you see them on the screen, but got to introduce the two members of our Cracked Racquets Holy Trinity who help me steer the ship each and every week on this show, our two other college tennis experts. Let's start where we always start. You know him as your co-favorite writer on our website, crackedrackets.com, a former 4-star recruit on tennisrecruiting.net, and a voter in the USTA Tennis Channel Top 25. It is our friend, Matt the Crack Stachowiak. Matty, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
Gruskin, do you really think I care about Michigan basketball?
I know you do, deeply, in your bones.
A team that had like 17 regular season wins that probably shouldn't have even made the tournament. You think I care about Michigan basketball?
They're like man. The women's equivalent of tennis equivalent of Stanford. They're just going to be there.
You know
Five
what?
Straight Sweet 16s. 5 straight.
All right,
baby.
fine. I'll watch it. Whatever.
No, I just figured you were trying to avoid any Michigan Baylor tennis talk for as long as possible, Maddie.
Yeah, well, I knew it was coming. I mean, I couldn't avoid it forever. The only thing I could do is just call out sick, but probably wouldn't have worked out too well.
I sent a message to Parsa saying, I don't know if Maddie's going to show up tonight. We may need a fill-in third. Thankfully, you did. Always a pleasure to have you. Less so of a pleasure to be joined by the third member of our Holy Trinity. Nevertheless, he joins us once again. All blue outfit for us today. Maybe that's indicative of his feelings after a rough weekend for his Liberty Flames. But of course, you know him best as a forefather of the College Tennis Ranks Formula Predictions, never far from the listed UTR, one of the many dames to root for the Liberty Flames, the snitch, the professor. It's our friend, Chris Halioris. Chris, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show. Are you feeling blue right now?
I don't know that I'm feeling blue. I also don't know that I have ever in my life felt like taking up for Stanford women's tennis until you compared them to Michigan basketball. Now I feel so much better to stand up for the Now I feel compelled to stand up for the Cardinal.
Yeah, no, Coach Faroud is so much more. I mean, she hit her 500th win this past weekend, and Coach Calvis 700 wins.
I mean,
it's just
come on,
ridiculous.
they're so good, they're easy to hate. Michigan basketball, not in that category.
I brought this up with Jay, and this is just a random tidbit, but something I think we should talk about more as a college tennis community. Annika Yarlagata, who plays for North Carolina, obviously from my area, she goes to school that 2019-2020 year. She has never lost a regular season match in college tennis. Like, she's lost one match. It was the semifinals of the NCAAs. That's it through 3 seasons. I'd be like, that's the life. That's the life I want to live. I'm like, that's what we're talking about. Anything short of that is not success. But that's the standards we play to here at Crack Racquets. And again, we want to get through all of the past week in Division I men's college tennis. The reason we're able to do that day in, day out, week in, week out here on this show is because of the support we get from all of you, whether it be coaches, players, fans, Scotty B, who of course I see on the chat. Welcome in as always. We are immensely grateful. All of you have embraced us, have helped us form this Crack Racquets college tennis community, helped brought all of us together. And obviously we know and believe in this sport. We want to provide it a platform. You guys allow us to do so. So thank you for the support. Also, huge thank you to our friends at SwingVision and Turner. And of course, you all know SwingVision. It is artificial intelligence for your tennis. If you want to get better in the most efficient way possible, you should download the SwingVision app today. You're going to set it up whenever you hit. It's going to take video of your performance. It's going to break down the film so that you don't have time. We're not all in the post-retirement phase of life like Chris Halioris. We don't just all have time to take private lessons whenever, we don't all have that sort of dough. This is the efficient cost-efficient way to do so. You download the SwingVision app and you can learn more about them by clicking on the link in the description to this podcast. You use our promo code CRACK20 on sign up, 14-day pro trial, $20 discount. Again, artificial intelligence for your tennis. Doesn't that just sound good? Download the SwingVision app today. Of course, a huge thank you to our friends at Turna as well, and across levels. A Turna grip, that bluish purple grip you see on the bottom of so many rackets. Pro players, college players, junior players, local players, everyone uses it. There's a reason why. They've also got fantastic non-grip products as well. If you want to learn more about them, join the Turna team. You contact sales@uniquesports.com today. They will give you discounted prices. They'll give you free samples if you mention we sent you there. Again, email sales@uniquesports.com today. A huge thank you to our friends at Turna. With all of that said, it's time to talk college tennis. And it's time to talk about a subject near and dear to my heart. I almost asked super producer Daniel Westoff to cue us in with the victors here today, but I thought that might be a little too cheesy. And again, we're happy, but we're not satisfied. We're still hungry if you're a Wolverine fan, but certainly for the Michigan Wolverines, this was a weekend you've been waiting for, I don't know, since 1996, maybe, if you want to look back through the program's history. And certainly this Michigan team had been on the precipice of this sort of success in recent memory. You go back to 2018, Coach Steinberg leads a group, Alex Knight, Leo Hua, all the way through to Carter Lynn, Davis Crocker. They make their first Sweet 16 in Coach Steinberg's tenure in Ann Arbor. Then flash forward to 2020, a new nucleus had emerged. You had Andrew Fenty and freshman by the name of Andre Styler, and the Johnstons and Beatties, Maloney's of the world. They made a run all the way to the 2020 National Indoor Semifinals, a match and a tournament, Chris, you and I were on the broadcast for, and that run felt spectacular if you're a Wolverine fan. And, you date back to that semifinal, Michigan took doubles in 4 first sets in singles against USC, your eventual national indoor champion. They were on the precipice of a national final. And then COVID hits, and you look at the 2021 season, Big Ten only schedule outside of the kickoff weekend and NCAAs. It was tough for the Wolverines to find their footing. Certainly a program first in a long time in terms of a victory over Ohio State, but never really had that chance from a rankings perspective to catapult themselves into the top 10, jump into that next level where if you're a Michigan fan, you feel like the program should be headed. They do that this weekend. Not only beating the Ohio State Buckeyes, not only beating the Baylor Bears, they beat them 4-0. And they beat Baylor outdoors 4-0, a second outdoor win for a team that went to Fort Worth and beat TCU fairly comfortably outside as well. And then you look at the formula they did it with. They take doubles in both matches. They do it at the 2 and 3 double spots. They also, in both matches, take 5 and 6 singles. I'll go to you first, Maddie. Again, if we were to play good win, bad loss, you see a 4-0 scoreline and you say maybe it is a bad loss for both Ohio State and Baylor. I don't know how you can, I don't see the spin for that. I don't know how you can say anything other than this was a good win and here come the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do. And going back to the beginning of the season, guys, like I remember thinking, okay, this Michigan team could be a little bit different, right? I mean, you bring back Fenty and Styler, who we know can play at a really, really high level. Gavin Young's coming in. You know, I don't think any of us knew the emergence of Bickerstaff. I don't think any of us would have thought that he would be doing exactly what he's doing. But no, I mean, we knew they were talented, and this was going to be a deeper team than maybe some Michigan teams in the past. But you know, the question was, could they put it all together against the elite squads like Ohio State and TCU and Baylor? And clearly they can. You know, the beginning of this year, things just weren't going right? Health and, you know, Fenty and Styler weren't playing that well towards the beginning of the season. It just, the pieces weren't all clicking, right, at the same time. And now you can really see this team starting to gel. I mean, they're coming together. They're healthy. Everybody's playing well now at the same time. And this is the time of the year that you want to do that, right? We're getting into April soon. The timing couldn't be better for Michigan. So I am not completely shocked by these results. Am I surprised? Yes. Would I have called them? No way would I have called 4-0 wins over Ohio State and Baylor. No chance of that. But am I completely floored? I mean, is this the wildest thing that I could have imagined? No, because, you know, I think we even talked about this, you know, when we were doing our college contenders. Michigan was a consideration, at least for me, for us to maybe put in our top 10 college contenders. They were close. They were around that ballpark. So I knew they were talented. But I mean, they've proven that they can do it outdoors, indoors, and they're clicking. So yeah, credit to them.
Yeah, it's on all cylinders. And you look for the Wolverines again. Nick Beattie had not been playing much at the number 6 single spot. Now, we knew they had the 6th year senior in the queue waiting, but you look for him this weekend to get a 4-4 win, I believe it was, over Justin Boulay. And, you know, for him to follow it up, I think much more impressively. Yeah, he beats Mizuchi, you know, 6-3, 3-6, 6-1 over Mizuchi. At 6, Mizuchi at 6, you felt like was a lock for the Baylor Bears. And, you know, he had so much success. Lost maybe 1 match on the season, 2 coming in. And, you know, one of them was at the 5 spot to Mitsui. And so for Beattie to get those wins, we knew what he was capable of. We've seen the singles he's played over the past 2 seasons. You mentioned it. It's that now you can put Beattie at 6 and you have this, you know, again, 23, 24-year-old as experienced as any player in the country. You feel like he can go get wins over a Boulay. He can go get a win over a Mizuchi. But you mentioned it. What has made this Michigan team elite? Certainly, we know what Fenty and Styler are capable of when they're playing their best. And Styler not only is closing in on match point on Adrian Boitana at 1 against Baylor, but he beats Kingsley 4-4 in just a grown man match. That was a match, holds of serve, +1 tennis. And to Styler's credit, he outdid Kingsley, who I don't think played poorly. I just thought Styler was lights out indoors. But the player who has made this Michigan team not only certainly, as you said, a college contender, but not just top 10, but in that neighborhood of the top 5, and in my opinion, no longer a crossoff, is Jacob Bickerstaff, who had a great fall, but is 10-1 in dual match play, Chris. 10-1. I told you guys. I'm not saying I said I saw 10-1, but I said if he's at 5-6, I'm feeling good about these Wolverines. Well, he beats Nava early in the season, and yet with the success of a Maloney, who beats Sven Law despite being down 5-0 in the second set and ends up winning that match in straights and gets a set off JJ Tracy, which I think is, you know, you're in the 3rd with Tracy. That's a good result. I think you can justify him at 3. Styler and Fenty. Fenty may not be winning every match, but he's in that I'm not going to lose, I promise you that sort of phase right now. They just have multiple paths to 4 right now, Chris, because everything is clicking. And I don't mean to celebrate too much. I know I'm jinxing it, but like this is the reality.
Yeah. So the first question I have is for Maddie. So Gruskin leads with happy but not satisfied. The question is, do you believe him? Because I don't.
No, I don't believe him.
He's happy as hell. He's ecstatic.
Oh,
He doesn't
yeah.
really believe they can win the national championship this year. He's jumping for joy at the weekend they just had. And that's what it's going to take, is the same attitude that Gruskin's hiding behind that he doesn't have right now. The guys have to not have that and think they can do it. But I actually do think, I think they can.
Yeah.
And it's been a great weekend. Gruskin also undersold the doubles in 4 first sets that was doubles in 5 first sets against USC at indoors. But no, these guys, tremendous weekend. We talked about it last week. They had only lost at kickoff 4-3 to Wake.
Without Styler.
And then arguably a bad loss at Harvard, or everybody gets one of those. And if that's the only one you're going to have,
I would point out Styler couldn't hit 2-handed backhands in that match because he was still coming off of injury.
Yeah, but even at that, okay, that's it for the season. And we said, hey, if they come in this weekend and show it, then we could have even last week said, don't cross them off, because that's all they've lost. And they've beaten TCU. They looked good. They backed it up this week to say, yeah, basically TCU wasn't the fluke, Harvard was. And, and we're in there as a contender.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And you look at the doubles, and Scotty B points it out, and you have to point it out. Soto and Mizuchi were up 5-4, 40 love, serving for the doubles set and serving for the doubles point, and a couple of double faults in that game. Ultimately, Michigan takes it. I will say this, getting to watch that first match against Ohio State, seeing the clips that I saw of the outdoor match as well. And obviously it hurts that an institution as esteemed as Michigan doesn't have outdoor cameras. Now, of course, the argument is, if you're lucky, you play 8 outdoor matches. If you're a Big Ten team, is it really worth having cameras? My follow-up is, don't worry, Big Ten cameras is 2 rows in a Michigan football game. So come on, guys, we're Ann Arbor. We can do this. I don't think Fenty and Aaron Schneider are playing particularly well. Like, they're 4-2 at that number 1 double spot, but the length of Gavin Young, it's funny. Here's why I'm so excited about Michigan men's tennis being good. I was on the phone with my little brother for an hour about this. And so I flushed all the thoughts out with him, and he was giving them back. It was great. Like, he's even inspired. That's the sort of weekend it was. Again, I feel like they can still get better, because I feel really good about Maloney and Beatty at 3. That's an experienced team. I think Young and Styler, that's just a lot of arms and a lot of big serves. I don't think we're playing our best in doubles, and yet we took 2 doubles points. I still think there's upside, and I want to go to you next, Chris, because Jay asks a really good question. And obviously right now for this Michigan team, you mentioned it, 10-2 overall, the 2 losses, 4-3 at Wake, 4-3 at Harvard. The question is, though, yes, they have wins over Baylor, Ohio State, TCU. And right now, when you're not counting all of the wins, that looks extraordinarily strong. Big Ten has a bunch of solid schools, but really outside of Northwestern, Ohio State, they don't have anyone top 30 right now. Like, with all due respect to Illinois, their early season struggles have hurt them in the rankings. Does this Michigan team need to beat Ohio State again to ensure it's top 8? Or is it in a pretty good position right now? Where are they?
Well, a lot of that depends on what some of those other teams do. But look, they're going to get, let's just assume that the only match they might potentially lose in the regular season is Ohio State, and that they run the rest of them. Okay. If that's the case, they're going to get some good points out of the Northwestern match. After that, there's not a lot of big points left to be had. It would certainly be nice for them if, an Illinois, or I don't even know who else it could be, honestly. There's just not that much opportunity for the Big Ten to really get a good team to rise up into the 40 range, if you will, and provide some points. So that makes it tough. They may not have to beat Ohio State in the regular season, but I don't think they can afford to lose to Ohio State in the regular season and then lose to them again in the conference tournament, and not, basically put up a win against Northwestern in the regular season and then another win against maybe Northwestern in the tournament. God forbid they end up on the other half and don't even have to play them and get the four seed coming in. That's going to make it tough, right? We were only at 5 wins this week, going to 6, and you get 9 by the time the NCAA rolls around. So that means they're going to be counting some very, very weak wins, and it's going to make those big ones even more critical. They're going to need, they're going to need all those teams to be top 5, Ohio State, TCU, Baylor. If they're all top 5, they get those big points. But yeah, it's going to be tough. Top 8 still possible. I mean, there's a lot of movement in and around. I think the top 4 or 5 are going to be pretty solid, but there's still movement after that. And they can do it if they get one more win, even if they can get 2 matches against Ohio State and split them, for sure they're a top 8.
Yeah. But here's my thing. Even if they're not a top 8, let's say they're a 9 or a 10 or an 11, why they can go on the road and take out whoever's 6, 7, 8. Like, I'm not that concerned about that. They've already proven they can go to Fort Worth and win outdoors there. So you know what? So what if they're the 9 or the 10 or the 11? This team's good enough to go on the road and win.
I'll tell you why. So what? Because I don't think we're going to be doing any broadcasts, sadly, for the NCAA tournament. And I want to be in Ann Arbor for a Sweet 16 matchup for the regional. Wow. I would love that. And so that's why it matters. But on the flip side, and I want to go to you here, Maddie, Baylor's 17-2. They've earned wins over Texas, over Kentucky, over Arizona, Oklahoma, over Virginia. They've had moments where, again, you see the outline there. At the same time, despite being 17-2, in the 2 losses, Tennessee, Michigan, yes, it was 4-0. It was closer. Although, was it closer than the 4-0 scoreline? I don't really know if it was. I mean, Bickerstaff and Beattie both off the court. Or Bickerstaff, and Maloney both off the courts in straights. Though Sven was up 5-0 in the second there. What's your diagnosis right now of Baylor? If this is the team that shows up in May, I think I can say it comfortably. They're not winning.
No. They won't win. They will not win if they continue to play like this. I mean, I don't know why it's not coming together. I mean, it's March 24th now. We're getting into April. Big 12 play is going to start soon.
TCU this weekend.
Yeah.
TCU on Friday, even though I believe that's a non-conference.
They've got TCU like 2 of the next 3.
That's right. So the way it's going right now, look, I'll just say it. I'm picking TCU. I'm picking the Frogs. I mean, with what I'm seeing right now, Baylor can do it. The doubles still, man. I mean, 5-4, 40 love, whatever you said. I didn't see this match. I don't know exactly what happened, but God, man, close that out. Like, that could change the entire complexion of the dual match. And I don't know how they reacted after dropping that doubles point. Like, did that let all the air out of the balloon for the Bears and going into singles? I really don't know. I didn't see it, but I just feel like, compared to last year, the depth is not as strong, right? I mean, Nick, Charlie, Spencer, like, those guys could be relied upon, and we're not seeing the same type of production at 4, 5, and 6. We've seen some good production. I mean, Wampy's been very good. Finn's had his moments. Marco hasn't really come on yet and made the transition into college tennis the way that I would have hoped. Teddy's been in and out of the lineup. He's been okay, but he's not stellar. Like, it's tough, and when you're relying on Adrian and Mati and Sven to win every match, and then you don't win doubles points, like, it's going to be tough against these good teams. So, no, my assessment is Baylor still has the talent to get it done. They have the team, but something's got to change. I mean, they've got to fix doubles, and they've got to have everybody clicking in singles, or else you're right, Gruskin. We'll get into May, and they're going to get clipped by another good team.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much to add to that. Chris, you're more than welcome to if you'd like. I would flip it and go to Ohio State next. It's crazy. You add Vogtsel, you add Van Emberg. You bring back just about everyone from the roster except McNally and Seelig. They feel the guy short. And I know the record still looks good for them at 6, but with all due respect, Cash did not have the best national indoors. And I still think there are moments with the aggressiveness that he plays with, the confidence, the energy he brings on court. You like having him out there. Boulet's been in and out constantly in the singles lineup. And we know Coach Tucker and Boulet, it's a yo-yo sort of relationship in terms of he's in, he's out of that lineup. Luchanik's played a little bit, mixed results. That's a great thing to say, seriously. Anthrop's sitting there. To me, it's just, when do you pull the Anthrop pin? Because I think it's time if you're Ohio State, Chris. Like, they're just not. I mean, again, Beatty gave Boulet the business, and that's a testament to Nick Beatty, but it just keeps happening for Ohio State at 6.
But I don't think it's, I mean, to your former point that they feel a guy short, I don't know that they feel a guy short any more than they did last year. I mean, we had these same discussions last year about who's going to be playing 6. What's the answer? I'll say this. I think in my mind, the Voetzel for McNally thing, I'll call that a wash. I mean, Voetzel might even be a hair better, but I'm okay with, I mean, I think that's pretty much a wash. I think what makes you feel a little bit not as good is you just felt like Seelig was much more of a lock than Van Amberg has been so far. Right? I mean, he's up and down. He's got a big game and he can play big with anybody, but he also has some lower lows than what Kyle had. And you just feel like it's just an unknown. So you don't know what you're going to get. Beyond that, I kind of feel like it's the same thing. And we still sit here and wonder, are they going to have the goods at 6? Are they going to have the goods at 6 outdoors? I mean, honestly, I think the guy that's best suited for the guy I like the best at 6 is Robbie Cash. But Robbie Cash is going to be better indoors than he is out. So the question is, when they're outdoors, is it Robbie? Is it Luchanik? Is it Boulet? Does Anthrop? I don't know how you go an entire season to the end of March and then decide, you know what, this plan to redshirt Anthrop, we need to give up on it. I don't think that's in Ty's genes, man. I think he's made the decision that I don't know.
Same with Ethan
I know
Quinn,
nothing.
right, in Georgia.
Yeah, I know nothing. I just think that decision's been made, and he's not having buyer's regrets here and going back. He's doing it for the good of the long term for the team. That's the way he's going to play it. And these guys should be good enough to win with the team they've got.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that said, let's move away from Ann Arbor. But again, Michigan 4-0 victories over Ohio State. Baylor Wolverines announcing their presence on the national stage. Let's go to the West Coast now and talk about a non-Power 5 team that was a mixed bag of results, certainly, and that's, of course, the Harvard Crimson, who had knocked off the Wolverines 4-3 earlier in the season. But Harvard goes out west this weekend. Starts things off with a trip against Wisconsin. They play Wisconsin in San Diego, but they beat Wisconsin 6-1. They then lose 4-3 at Pepperdine. Again, I don't think that's a poor result there. 4-1 win for them against Utah, but then 4-3 loss against San Diego. So ultimately 2-2 on the trip. I mean, for this Harvard team now, 10-4, and they do have the win over Michigan, and they do have a good win over Vanderbilt, and Ivy League play still to come. That said, I want to go to you here first, Chris, your reaction to their results, and, does this knock them out of top 16 contention?
No, I mean, look, Jeff Menaker and I go back and forth on Twitter about this, was more related to Columbia than Harvard, but no, it doesn't knock them out. It's the Ivy League schedule does hurt. They do have, you've got Penn and you've got Princeton that are going to be worth decent points. Okay. And Harvard still has a match with Northwestern. So Harvard's got that for them. And then obviously they've got Columbia. Certainly they're not out of it. No, by any stretch of the imagination, because all of those matches are good. The losses almost, they don't matter for the rankings as much as they do for the morale. Like even when Columbia went and lost to USF, right? It's not, the losses are not so bad as much as you just look at them and you don't feel as good. It's always possible. A couple wins makes that loss be long forgotten. They have plenty of room left to secure a top 16 seed. Should they play well, they can make it. But when you look at losing, and granted, Pepperdine and San Diego are both good teams, but if you want to be top 16, you feel like, certainly you got to at least split against those two. You should beat Utah. You should beat Wisconsin. You should split those other two. You can't lose them both. So I don't feel great about it, but there's absolutely not out of the top 16, a host spot running.
It's tough because, again, Columbia has struggled out of the gates. And the thing is, Princeton's ranked pretty high, right? Penn's got a pretty solid ranking as well when it comes to the Ivy League. And if they run the table as they're expected to do, they'll get solid wins. But Pepperdine and San Diego, who we're going to talk about momentarily, those would have been good wins. Those would have been for sure counted come the end of the season and would have factored probably above the Ivy League wins that they'll accumulate. Here's the good thing for this Harvard team. You're a year away. Like, yeah, you lose Brian Shee, who's been excellent at the top of the lineup, but you look at, Doc Von Sr., Henry von der Schulenberg, who's 9-1 for the team thus far in dual matches, 20-4 overall in singles on the year. You look at Harris Walker, who's 9-0 in dual matches in singles and 16-3 overall in singles on the year. There are a lot of pieces here, whether it's Alan Yim or just, again, across the board, Jachuk. They've got some time, right? And they continue to bring in good recruiting classes. That said, I just don't know if I see enough left on the board, Chris, for them to finish top 16, just with how crowded it's going to be.
Yeah, you expect some of those teams, especially those with conference tournaments, that get to pile on a couple extra wins. And I think I misspoke earlier, said it was 5 last week and 6 this. It was 6 last week, or it was 6 this week. It's going to 7 next week. They've got 7, countable in there. It's their 8th and 9th right now that are unranked. But when you consider Columbia, Northwestern, Princeton, Penn, that's 4 matches. They need to count 2 more. Sure, they'd like to upgrade what they've got sitting in the 7th spot right now. Honestly, a 41-pointer sitting in the 6th spot is fine. So if they could get 3 wins, if they can get 3 of those 4, they're looking good. And then it's really more of a, hey, those teams right around them, like a USC, right, that's sitting, right behind them right now, certainly going to get opportunities against a Stanford team, a couple times, an Arizona team again, even though they've already played them, most likely say in the tournament. Yes, they'll have more opportunities, and that could be dangerous for them. I still think, though, as long as they don't lose more than 1 more match the rest of the way, they have a really good shot at holding on to a top 16 spot.
Yeah. And, again, Maddie, I want to get your thoughts as well. Chris, does it help them to actually split with Pepperdine, to have beaten them in the kickoff weekend, but lose to them now? Does that sneakily help them in the rankings?
Well, I mean, no, it's never as good as winning both of
sure,
them.
But it doesn't hurt them, is what I'm trying to say.
But it's not a huge hit, right? Yeah, you're barely taking anything in the loss for that. I mean, Pepperdine's now in the top 20. It's not much of a hurt. It's not a big loss. It's more the opportunity cost of the points you didn't get for winning, but the losing points really weren't. It's not that much different than if they hadn't played them. It's not huge.
I should have said, by the way, Harris Walker, 2 losses this weekend to Timmy Zeitvogel and to San Diego. Also for Pepperdine, they dropped the doubles point against Harvard and ultimately, again, come back, find 4 singles victories, flipping that result from the kickoff weekend. I want to get to them in a second. Maddie, any thoughts on Harvard?
Not really. I mean, I don't know why we're still talking about this. To me, Harvard is... Look, I haven't had them that high in my rankings all year long, guys. I think Chris, Gruskin, you guys have had them higher than I have. The ITA's had them higher. What are the expectations, really? I mean, Gruskin, you said they're a year away or, whatever. So what if they're not top 16? I don't care. I mean, to me, this is not that surprising of a loss. 4-3 to San Diego, 4-3 to Pepperdine. Okay. I mean, I see that happening a whole bunch of times. That doesn't shock me by any means. Their win over Michigan was not the win. It's not the same Michigan team that we're seeing now. I'm sorry, but Andre Styler is a totally different player. So for me, I have never really been all that high on this Harvard team. So none of this is surprising to me. If they make top 16, great. If they don't, so what?
All right. Completely fair. Well, with that said, let's move on to the teams that beat them. And let's start with the Pepperdine Waves. Pepperdine men now 8-5. And still, when you look at the Waves roster, it's hard to not be compelled. And again, for them to drop the doubles point and beat this Harvard team, really good clinch from Andrew Rogers, who I believe was clinched on in that kickoff weekend match. I think he wins that match 6-6 over Jachuk. And, again, 8-5. Certainly now they've got the conference play left on the schedule, and they've got that matchup against at San Diego, April 17th. That is just going to be fascinating, certainly for NCAA implications, and should be a very fun match. Chris, are they still in the top 16 hunt? Where are you with this Pepperdine team?
Oh, I mean, they're absolutely in the top 16 hunt.
Do they have enough points left though? That's the problem.
I just, that's a tricky question. I mean, the San Diego match is going to be huge, but you look at the rest of their schedule. Basically, that's it. I mean,
Gonzaga, sort of, but like that really is it.
From a points perspective, you run the tape. Loyola Marymount, Pacific, St. Mary's, Portland, Gonzaga, BYU, San Francisco, and Santa Clara. There aren't any points in there outside of the San Diego match. So that San Diego match becomes really, really critical for them. And right now they can live on, they've got 8 wins right now that get
which
them,
include, by the way, just quickly for those that don't know, wins 5-2 over Arizona, 4-2 over USC, the 4-3 win over Harvard as well, a win over Penn. San Diego would be a really good 5th win. I don't know if that's enough for 16 though.
Yeah, the problem is, they're getting 20 points out of that Nebraska win right now. That Nebraska win probably living off beating UC, ranking living off a win over UCF. It's probably going to fade. So that will get less and less valuable. They could use 2 more good wins. So that almost makes it does, to try to hold a top 16. It makes that San Diego win a must. And then
they probably have to beat them in the conference tournament again.
And then I was going to say, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that there's really a chance for them. Boy, is there a chance to get anything besides? I don't think there is besides them. I think that's it, because the conference tournament, Gonzaga is the next best team currently at 51. Unlike, not going to help a lot. It's actually a little better. It's better than the Nebraska win, so it'll help. But they might have to beat them twice.
That said, Maddie, Pepperdine goes to USC, let's say for a regional, or they go to an Arizona or whoever that 16 is. Are you going to pick them?
I might. I do think Pepperdine is more dangerous than Harvard, right? We talk about that Pepperdine-Harvard matchup. When I compare the rosters and I look, I think Pepperdine has a higher upside for sure.
I just really like their depth.
Their depth. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So Gruskin, if they go to, I'm not saying for sure I'm going to pick them, but I'm going to think about it. I do think Pepperdine is a more dangerous squad than a San Diego or a Memphis or a Harvard. I do. I think they are.
DeJong's 8-4, Zeitvogel 8-2, Samaria 7-1, but Hadigian 5-5, and Rogers 5-6. I still don't think they're playing their best yet. Doubles, they're 15-17 in dual match play. It's been a mess, but I don't want them coming to my region. Yeah,
I don't know Rogers can play well.
I think if Texas isn't healthy, and let's say Pepperdine goes there as like the 15, Pepperdine's Texas is the 15 seed, like that's one to it's really hard to beat a team twice. I think Pepperdine's in that range where they are right now in position. I think they will be that most dangerous 2 seed come the NCAA tournament. Let's move on from them. Another team very much in the mix. Let's talk about San Diego. Obviously, they get the 4-3 win here over I'm blanking, Harvard. That's obviously a big win for them. And you look for the San Diego team, 13-2 overall. And, they've gotten the wins over a Gonzaga already. They beat a UCLA. They beat an FAU, beat a Penn, and a Wisconsin, a Utah. Is that enough, Chris? On the same token, you flip it. Is San Diego in the same position as Pepperdine?
Basically, yes, but I will say that they have a slightly better shot than Pepperdine does, just because the depth of their wins. Pepperdine ran out, right? They're done. They've got 8, and and it's a blank after that. San Diego is using, a win over Arizona State, and right behind it, almost the same points. They've got the UCLA win, the FAU win, the Wisconsin win, all three of them right there. And what that benefits them is if any of those teams have just a slightly decent run and move up, all of a sudden the points for San Diego get better. Pepperdine doesn't have that opportunity. So there's some benefits to San Diego that are things out of their hands that could help them that Pepperdine doesn't have. But in all likelihood, they might be in the same boat where they have to win them both. They, though, have a better chance of being able to split the two and still hold on.
Yeah, no, and their match calculus pretty straightforward. Doubles point, take two of the top three, and then get a win from Will Davies at 6. And Davies right now 8-2 in the dual match season. Obviously, August Holmgren 11-3 up top. He has a great win. I believe he clinches that match against Harvard. I mean, yeah, I don't sleep on San Diego either, whether it's Osorio at 2 or just, again, they've got a bunch. It's an experienced group, and this is the year for them because this is Holmgren's final season. You have to maximize it. If you're going to make a Sweet 16 push, it's now. This team 13-2, it is, again, it's the inverse of Baylor, right? Where there are a lot of pieces. We don't know how it fit together. We know how this San Diego team fits together. And so I think they are still in the hunt as well. And that Pepperdine-San Diego matchup, again, remains fascinating. Any additional thoughts on that, Maddie?
I just don't think they're as dangerous. I mean, I do obviously like Holmgren. I just don't know if I see them making the Sweet 16.
Okay.
I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I guess if everything broke the right way for them, it could potentially happen. But in my mind, this San Diego team is probably not going to make the Sweet 16.
Yeah, no, it's fair game. But all right, with that said, let's move to Middle Tennessee. 20-3 is Middle Tennessee this season. And Coach Jimmy Borndame, who joined us on the podcast not that long ago, again, he knows what he has, and he's confident about this group who goes this weekend 4-3 win over SMU in Dallas, 5-2 win over Rice. Middle Tennessee is this year's Texas. They just keep winning 4-3 matches. They just continue to find ways, whether it's 3 sets, whether it's 4 singles victories. That said, you look for them. They've got Texas Tech coming up on Friday, still have a match against Memphis, Tulsa, Wichita State on the schedule as well. You know what I'm going to ask you, Chris? Is there enough there? Because they have done of just about everything that's been asked of them.
Yeah, they have, but boy, top 16 still. I mean, it's not out of the question by any stretch.
I guess I should have gone through it. They've beaten Arizona. That's a very nice win. Princeton win, solid. Auburn win, very good. Louisville win, ages better and better by the day. Would have really helped if they'd beaten, a Georgia Tech or a Mississippi State just to get those transitive victories. That said, your losses on the season, 5-2 to Notre Dame. You lose 4-2 to Georgia Tech, 5-2 at Mississippi State. If you win those matches, I think you're definitely in the hunt. That's the problem, though. Is the margin of error is so thin, right? They almost need to sweep everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. They're projected for already a jump to 16 this week, and in large part due to Louisville, right? That Louisville had the big weekend. Louisville jumps into jumps way up there, and all of a sudden, Middle Tennessee gets credit for the points for a much bigger win now. But I do kind of feel like with what some of these other teams are going to do, some of the teams that are hunting for that spot are going to come up with a big win. They're, you feel like they need one more, decent win to replace something they've already got. I just don't know, yes, they've got chances. I mean, a win over Tulsa, if they could get that would be, that would be a nice replacement for them over using a USF at say 55, right? 54, 55 right now.
Win over Memphis.
A win over Memphis. Again, I think that one might get a little cheaper as we go. I'd much rather, I think the Tulsa win will hold its value better. So it's not out of the question. Some of it to some extent will be out of their hands, but yeah, they're going to be probably right down to the wire of can they manage to hold onto a top 16.
No,
which is a great, ironically, a great place for them to be, because Jimmy was burned a couple years ago by being the first team out. And he's always the one worried, do I have enough now? Do I have enough now? And I think, now, Jimmy, you've got enough. You're in. He's not worried about the top 16. He's worried about making sure he's not, number 42 in the first team out.
That's what I like.
and
No, that's what I like to hear. And
that's not going to happen this year.
And again, I think you made the case there for Memphis, who's 10-3, but it's just, I don't know if they have enough left on the schedule either. So with that said, let's move on. Talk about, talk about some of these other results, but all of these teams super impressive. And again, Middle Tennessee, Memphis, Pepperdine, San Diego, those are matchups we're going to see in the next month. So certainly we will be on the lookout for those as they occur. Let's talk about NC State next. And obviously yesterday, NC State, a massive victory over South Carolina. They get a 4-2 win over Northwestern this week as well. I know I'm sticking with a theme here, but these are the questions we ask, folks, because when you're monitoring the college tennis season, certainly at the top, those teams know they're getting into the NCAA tournament. It's, can I be a top 8 seed? Can I be an NCAA regional host? Yeah, they lost their matchup to Duke. Yeah, they lost their matchup to Miami, Chris, but this is a nice catch-up for NC State, who's very young. This is not the year you expect them to be at their best. And yet, are they top 16 good already?
They're right there. I mean, honestly, if you look at next week's projected rankings, Arizona at 17 to NC State at 20 is like half a point, which is nothing in the rankings. I mean, it is, you might as well just throw them up and see where they fall. And then it's only another point to Middle Tennessee, who's, sitting in that projected 16 spot. They absolutely can do it. And the bonus they have, like we've talked about teams like Pepperdine and San Diego getting very little opportunity and basically needing to beat each other. NC State gets plenty of opportunity. I mean, there's no lack of opportunity for them in the ACC. So, that one's really not on it. That's not on them going, oh, we've got this one match that we just have to win or we don't have a chance. They've got a bunch left in the regular season, and then they've got an ACC tournament that they get to go, hey, let's just jump up and win a good match or two anywhere. And it helps.
Yeah, and correction, they didn't lose to Duke. They lost to Florida State. It was the tough Florida swing at Miami 4-2, at Florida State 4-3. They lose at Wake 5-2. Outside of that, their losses this season, kickoff weekend to Ole Miss. This is a very young team. I don't think there's any shame in that loss. 4-3 loss to Georgia. Nothing wrong with that. They beat North Carolina, and they still have Duke and North Carolina again on the schedule. They're at Virginia this weekend. That's a massive opportunity. That first weekend of April, at Louisville, at Notre Dame. That's become a sneaky important weekend now as well, given the success of those two teams. I mean, again, North Carolina State's 12-5 overall, and you look at the success they're having. I don't think there's any one standout performer. They've been pretty good everywhere, Maddie. I think it's going to be them versus Duke for, potentially a top 16 sort of seed, and certainly a final, a semifinal spot come conference tournament.
That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
How fun would that be? I mean, I would love to see that. And again, I can't remember if you have the schedule pulled up for NC State. When and where is that Duke NC State match?
April
in
15th.
Raleigh, April 15th. Both Duke and North Carolina coming to Raleigh.
What day of the week is the 15th?
Friday, 6 p.m.
Friday, Sunday.
I'm going to have to make an appearance to that match.
Yeah.
That's one that your boy's going to have to
it's serious if Maddie's coming out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to come out for that one. Look, I think this NC State team on a given day can compete with just about any team in the country. I'm not going to say every team, but just about on a given day. The problem is there's a little bit of inconsistency, right? Like you get the weekend where you lose to Florida State and Miami, but then you come back and you beat Northwestern and you beat South Carolina and they look really good. It's just, this team has some talent. They're young and they have the potential to be really, really good, but it's a bit of it's almost like a coin flip. It's like, which NC State are we going to get? So, when we get down to the postseason, man, let's hope it lands on heads instead of tails. I mean, if you're the Wolfpack, you just have to hope that guys like Martins Rosens and Robin Cattry and, these guys are really, Braden Schick, lower in the lineup, guys like that, they bring their A game, because if they do, they can win. But if they're a little bit off, then they're going to lose to these teams that are in the top 10, top 12, top 15. We've seen it all year long. So the Wolfpack, they're a very interesting team, and I cannot wait for that Duke match, and especially the ACC tournament, because like Chris said, I mean, they're going to have plenty of opportunities here to get as many wins as they need. I mean, I'm not worried about that. If they handle their business, they'll be right where they want to be.
No, and then again, Sylvester's been good. Van
Yep.
Sandbeek's been good. Staheli's been good.
Yeah.
They've just been good. And so I guess the question is,
But a
it's gotta
little
be-
inconsistent, though.
Sure, fair.
That
fair.
just, I mean, that comes with the fresh,
The
you know, the
age.
young team, right?
Yeah.
You're
Right.
just- not only are they young, but they have, you know, because they're young, they haven't been around long enough to have it built into the culture that we just expect to win. We know we're going to, you know, when it gets down to being a 3-all match, or we can even get it to 3-all and we're going to grind it out, they're going to have those weekends where it just doesn't happen. And that's not built into those guys yet. It's just,
So my question though, Chris, it's like, when we get into the NCAA tournament, where's your confidence level? Like, it's like,
yeah, I'm with you. Like you could throw them up against a top 5 seed and they might be able to win. And then they could go out the next day and lose to number 25.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
the
why
odds
my
of them running. Yeah. The odds of, if you're looking at a national championship, right, the odds of being able to do that and put it together 6 matches in a row. No, that's
not this team.
That's not this year for them, but
no.
Can they have a really good run? You know, get a fairly easy first rounder, you know, get a really tough, good second round match, but make it out. And then you're in the round of 16, maybe get one more. But after that, the odds of continuing to do it are just going to be really tough.
Do they need to beat one of Virginia or Wake to be a top 16 seed?
No.
They could just sweep everything else, right?
Oh, yeah.
If they beat Duke.
Yeah. No, they're going to be in the mix. You get enough top 35 wins. Again, there's a lot of top 35 caliber teams in the ACC this year, particularly with the rise of, you know, the Miamis, Louisville's, Notre Dame's of the world, all playing well. So yeah, watch out for this NC State team. Certainly they will be a college contender probably as soon as next season.
I'll just add this, Gruskin. They're sitting projected at 20 next week, and that's counting a win over Presbyterian, who's ranked over 100.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're talking about a rank over a 30. They'll take a rank over a team at number 50, and it'll be a big jump for them right now.
Yeah, again, and it's half a point separating teams 17 and 20. So margins thin. Let's go to the flip side of this match, South Carolina. You guys said, let's cross them off last week. Is it still a year early? Are we crossing them off?
Yeah. We already did.
They don't have an answer at 5 and 6. And you just can't, I mean, there are other teams in that boat that we think are better fit, but yeah, they consistently have shown they can't give us an answer at 5 and 6. And I'll still say, and I still struggle with Lambling at 4. I mean, it's just, there's just too many, it's not consistent and it's not there for them to be able to make a run.
Maddie, you're shaking your head in agreement.
I completely agree. I like the team and they are dangerous. I mean, if you find South Carolina in your section of the draw come NCAAs, it's like, oh, all right, let's be prepared here and make sure that we handle our business because they're dangerous, but they can't win it. They cannot.
You almost feel like it's like this. What's funny is coming off of this match, to me, this team feels a little more than a little bit like last year's NC State team. They're really good at doubles. They're almost a lock at 1.
Yep.
But then they just can't find enough after it.
Yep.
I think that's fair. Well, then again, with all of that said, let's move on to the rest of the results we had this week. And there were a bunch of good ones. We'll go through this quickly here because don't want to spend too long on anything. Let's go through again. Are we hitting the panic button for Tennessee? They drop another match this weekend at Georgia, still without Monday. I think we just all agree pretty quickly, right? Across the board. I'll start with you, Manny. Doesn't count till Monday's back.
Right. You've got to be healthy. I mean, I'm not going to panic until I see them start losing these. I mean, if they get Monday back and he's fine, then again, I'm not pressing the panic button just yet.
Yeah. Chris shakes his head in agreement. So I'm going to assume that's a yes from you.
Yeah, I'm not panicking, but what I am seeing is absolutely zero faith that they can do it without him.
Yeah.
I mean, even
Oh, they
within,
need him.
yeah, the team has to
They-
believe, look, if we don't have him, we're done. And if he doesn't come back and he doesn't come back fully healthy in their own heads, they're done.
Yeah, if right.
No, fair. All right, let's move on. Again, Arizona, 4-3 win over USC. Is Arizona back?
What do you mean by back? I wouldn't say they're back. I mean, USC, hey, it's a good win, right? It's a rivalry match. That's
Yeah,
a
if this
very
was good
good
win, bad loss. Is this good win? In LA,
Yeah,
I believe.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a good win for Arizona. Are they back as what? Like a top 10 type of contender? No, but it was a good win.
Chris.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're back, but it was absolutely a good win. And hopefully they do look like they've sort of, it seemed like they went away, if you will, and they're starting to play better. And yeah, they look the part that we thought maybe we were going to see coming into the year, that they're going to have to finish and run through the conference tournament with too.
Again,
yeah,
dangerous team. Arizona is a dangerous team, right? If you find them in your section of the draw, you better be prepared, because you know they have the players to get it done. They just haven't really performed to their capabilities this year yet.
Fair. I will say this, 3 months later, Colton Smith is exactly the real deal we thought he would be as a freshman for this team. Is USC a top 16 team? I don't know if they are this year. Maddie? I'm not saying they can't finish top 16. I just think if they make the quarterfinals this year, that's a win.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the quarterfinal. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if they make the quarters, that's as good as they're going to do. They're not going any further than that. And they may not even make the quarters, but top 16, yeah, no, I do still think the Trojans are Sweet 16 material for sure. I do.
Chris?
Oh, totally accurate assessment. I mean, they're not going to be a top 8 seed, which means even if they hold on to a top 16, which is borderline right now, they have to go on the road for that matchup against a top 8 team. So if they manage to make the quarters, they've done a hell of a job by knocking off a top 8 on the road.
The entire West Coast is in trouble. I don't know if they're going to get a top 8 anything, because everyone keeps beating everyone. And so that's a tough position for the Trojans. And again, it's a very young team, and they still bring most of the nucleus back next year as well. So perhaps it is a year too soon for the Trojans as well. Again, let's keep
they're not
on.
getting a top 8 seed. Right?
Yeah, no, 100%. But let's move on. How about the Cardinals of Louisville and Westhoff? If you want to chime in, now may be your moment here. Louisville, 4-3 over FSU, 4-2 over Miami. I don't know if this, again, if we're playing good win, bad loss here, that they came consecutively. I don't know how you can say anything but good win for this Louisville team. And I want to go to you first, Chris, because this is your neck of the woods. They can play.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some really dangerous guys playing lower in the lineup for them in Rodriguez and Hernandez that people just, I mean, I won't say coaches under it. Coaches know it. And they're like, oh, my God, they've got these guys down low that are just, they're very, very dangerous team. And if they can get David Mizrahi at 6 to do what he's been doing here and winning these matches for him, I mean, they were down that Florida State match, they're down 3-2, and Mizrahi, who, is to me, when I've seen him play in the past, is more, a bigger pace, is better suited for indoors. Rodrigo really likes this kid, and he's playing him outdoors, and he's justifying that playing time. And he comes from 5-4 down in the third, wins it, and puts it all on Chen, and who turns around and wins that match to clinch it for him over Florida State. They're a legit dangerous team, and they're playing well right now.
Maddie?
Good wins. I mean, when you beat FSU and Miami like that, I mean, I consider those good wins for Louisville, but how dangerous, Chris? Like, to me, they're not dangerous where they're scaring any of the top, the elite teams.
Right.
But they're dangerous where they could upset somebody in the tournament. I just don't think it's going to be one of the, the big guns.
Yeah, I think, I would say dangerous from a standpoint of if you were the 15 or 16 seed that was hosting and had them in your region,
then maybe
they might, they could jump up and bite somebody, but not beyond that.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And now, again, this helps the whole conference, right? With a strong Louisville, and it just makes all of these wins valuable. Certainly with that in mind, how many ACC teams are NCAA bound? I apologize. I know that says ACC bound, but Chris, as of right now, I feel like, I mean, I'm trying to think who's not going to get in the conference.
Nine right now.
So who's not in right now?
Boston College.
Yeah, Boston College and Virginia Tech are givens out.
But Virginia Tech was the best team of opening weekend.
Clemson
is basically probably given to be out. They'd have to come up with a monster win. And Georgia Tech is a long way out at 59. Those are the 4 out right now. And it would take a lot to get one of them in. And then everybody else is pretty, fairly comfortably in right now. Miami is the last in at, next week's projections as of now, 36 for Miami. The cut line's 41. So they're 5 spots in. Louisville cut projected 33. They're well in, and then everybody else is inside the top 30. So
I think all those teams make it.
I think so too. I think all 9 of those teams get in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that said, then let's rapid fire through a quick game of good win, bad loss. Stick with the ACC. And again, you can straight up one word answer unless you want to say a little bit more. FSU 4-2 over Notre Dame. Maddie?
FSU 4-2 over Notre Dame.
On the road.
On the road. Okay. Good win.
Yeah.
Chris?
Good win.
Good, for that reason. Yeah. Good win.
Notre Dame 4-3 over Miami. Maddie?
Was that at home or on the road?
At home.
God, these are tough. I mean, I kind of like to say good win.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm with you. I want to say good win, but I'm also, I just have this, there's a feeling in my gut right now that Miami is just kind of fading.
Yeah. It does seem like
started
that.
out real well, and they're just a lot of these matches, they're just, after they got beat like 4-0 at home by Carolina, and now, the loss to Louisville, loss to Notre Dame. They're sort of, it seems like a slide here.
It was a tough weekend, no doubt about that. Virginia, Georgia Tech.
Good loss.
4-3 UVA, by the way. Yeah, good loss. This one doesn't even qualify. This is a good loss. And then 4-3 Virginia Tech over Clemson. I think we would all agree good win. How about this? Kentucky 6-1 over A&M, 4-3 over Auburn. Those are both good wins, right? For these Wildcats team, those are the sort of wins you get when you are clearly a top 16 borderline, if not assuredly top 10 team, Maddie.
Yeah, but if we can say good win, but expected though, we expected.
Well, the turnaround against Auburn, because they were down in that match.
Okay, I didn't see that match. I have no idea what happened there, but
what happened there, Maddie, I'll give you, it was actually a pretty straightforward going into 3-all. Basically, every match went straight sets, and it was the next thing you knew, it was 3-all after 5 straight set matches in singles.
And it was Draxel.
And then all comes down to I think it was on Musatelli. I thought no Diallo against Auburn. I think Musatelli up to 3, and then I think it was all down to a third setter in that match. So it was, again, they did what they had to do. Like you said,
right?
Expected, you should win. And I already had this conversation with the Auburn folks. They're not happy. They wanted to win. They think any loss is a bad loss. I still say from an Auburn perspective, good loss, right? I mean, nobody wants to lose, but a team like that, that's not been up at that level for several years, to come that close. And the guys actually now believe, hey, we're right there. We can play with Kentucky. We're right there at that level now. That builds, that's got to build confidence in the heads of the players. It's not them telling themselves they can do it. They actually went out and did it. Yes, you didn't win, but you were there and you didn't lose. I mean, look, 2 days later, A&M goes in there and gets beat 6-1.
Right.
That's
I can't, from Auburn's perspective, I can't look at that as some terrible loss.
Right.
No.
Yeah, no, again, I think it was a good loss. And I also think it's a good win for Kentucky to continue to get those victories and establish that confidence. They think they're on the tier with Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, and none of the results they've had thus far. And they still get Tennessee a little bit later. So that's popcorn sort of match. Auburn does bounce back with 1 win over Vandy. I think we all agree that's a good win. LSU. I like this LSU team, whether it's Holman, whether it's Hunter, whether it's Kozlov, again, Diaz, 4-3 over Vandy. Now, the Vandy bubble burst a bit this weekend, but I still thought they played 2 close matches and probably should have won that match at home against LSU. That said, I kind of like the Tigers, Chris.
I mean, look, I do. The LSU is dangerous. Kent Hunter is a really dangerous guy. They've got danger down and again, it's the kind of dangerous that Maddie and I were talking about when we're talking about a dangerous with Louisville.
Yeah.
They're not dangerous in terms of they're going to beat top teams, but they're dangerous from the perspective of you think you've got a bottom rung SEC team that's ranked somewhere around number 50 coming at you. And then all of a sudden, and you're number, 20 and they knock you off like they did with Ole Miss. That can happen. But yeah, both LSU and Vandy in the same boat. They're so just a quick side note, Gruskin. I had the opportunity, and I posted the one on Twitter. I went out with the Florida State guys on Friday night here, or Saturday night before their match. I got an opportunity to meet up with the A&M folks for breakfast on Sunday before their match with Kentucky. And those are the kinds of questions I asked the coach. I'm like, hey, what are your thoughts? For real, not for real. And I go through these teams, right? And I'm like, and one of the teams I'm always interested in is Vandy. They've been down for so many years here. I'm like, is the team for real? And I got nothing but a resounding, yeah, I think they're for real. They're not, they're not just living off a couple of cheap wins. And the same with LSU. So I don't, there's at least some respect amongst the coaches there when I talk to them for those teams that, I'm not sold yet on the Vandy side of the house. I do we know with LSU that Holman's going to be a tough out no matter what. I've seen Kent Hunter now and am very impressed. What you're getting out of Kozlov day in, day out. And that's just going to be a battle. Yeah, they're definitely dangerous. And I watched them both matches the Mississippi weekend, right? They lose a really tight one to State. They win with Ole Miss. Yeah, they can beat a top 25-ish, 20-25 team. After that, I don't think they're much of a threat.
All right. Well said. Well, with that, let's move on. And again, we're rapid firing through here. Just want to talk about some of the other notable results. Illinois beats UCF 4-3. I think we all agree. Good win just across the board, or maybe no one wins.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Bad loss, you say?
Yeah, sure.
I'd go more with bad loss than good win.
Yeah.
All right. Lock it in. Oregon 4-3 over Nebraska. Good win, bad loss.
Nebraska.
It's neither.
Okay.
Right.
All right. They say neither. Tulsa 4-3 over Oregon.
That I think's a solid win.
It's definitely not a bad loss.
No.
But I'm not even going to go so far as I'll say from a points perspective, good win. Oregon just hasn't been very impressive this year. So it's a match that Tulsa really, they needed to, they should win. I'd be concerned if they didn't, and they did.
Okay. Oklahoma State 4-3 over Tulane.
Whatever.
Oklahoma State 4-2 over Memphis. I think that's a good win.
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Interesting. I like this. No, tough graders. Good. Be Memphis 4-3 over Tulane. I would imagine you'd say there are no winners or losers in that one. SMU 5-2 over USF.
See, that doesn't shock me. I like SMU. I mean,
yeah. And USF's down. I mean, USF just wherever they pulled something out of their rear end against Columbia. Outside of that, nothing this year.
Well, there you go. USF 4-3 over Columbia. That's a great and much desperately needed win for that UCF team.
Yeah, that's a good win.
Yeah, that's huge for them.
That's good.
4-3 over ODU.
That's a good win for them.
All right, we'll take it. This is good podcasting, guys. And here's the creme de la creme. FGCU, Kennesaw State, 4-3, 4-1 over Liberty. Chris, 30 seconds. The floor is yours.
FGCU, good win, came back from 3-0 down against Liberty. Liberty just, whatever. They crapped the bed. Kennesaw State, huge win. Liberty, horrible loss. That doesn't even go in the bad loss column. Horrible loss on a weekend that I honestly was dreading before it started. They drove from Virginia to Atlanta. They flew from Atlanta to Florida. Absolute scheduling nightmare, and they backed it up with play that was even worse. I'm sorry, it is what it is.
Bad losses.
As harsh as I was on Tennessee, that's how bad Liberty was this weekend.
All right, we can leave that there. Then let's move on now to the rankings here this week, because again, with all of that movement across the country, certainly our rankings going to change a bit here. And, again, fairly stable, I would say, in terms of the teams you see in the top 10, but certainly some movement amongst the order. And of course, now when we talk top 10, we talk cross-offs. And you look last week, some of the teams we crossed off and how things have changed this week in the top 10, just to name where we're at. We have Florida 1, TCU 2. And if you can pull up the computer rankings right now, super producer Daniel Westoff as well, because if you look, Florida 1, TCU 2, slightly different than the computer rankings, which right now have Florida and TCU tied at that number 1 spot. We have Michigan 3, Ohio State 4, Wake Forest. I'll go through ours quickly. So TCU 2, Michigan 3, Ohio State 4, Wake Forest 5, Baylor 6, Georgia 7, South Carolina 8, Tennessee 9, Kentucky 10. You go, again, computer rankings right now. They have TCU 1, Florida 2, Ohio State 3, Tennessee still higher up at 4 on the strength of their wins, Michigan 5, South Carolina 6, Georgia 7, Wake Forest 8, Baylor 9, Texas 10. Baylor falls out of our top 10. I'll say this. I don't think they fell out of, I think they actually may have fallen out of my top 10 this week. If not, no, they don't. Excuse me. I see them at number 6, but they almost fall out of the top 10. They fall out of the top 5 this week. There we go. Good math, Alex. Good reading. As we look at the cross-offs, and let's start playing a game here. Last week's cross-off, we crossed off South Carolina, we crossed off Wake Forest, I believe, and we crossed off Kentucky from our current top 10. You look at where we're at now, and on this list, are we ready to cross off Baylor?
What? We're not even going to give any of those guys a chance here, Gruskin?
Which ones?
That you already lined out.
Well, you crossed them off last week.
Well, we don't get the opportunity to change our minds?
We want to uncross? Can we uncross? Super producer Daniel Westoff, you're the one who makes those sort of decisions.
No, I don't want to uncross. I'm
not crossing off Texas, by the way. They are not crossed off on my list. I don't think they're crossed off on yours either, Maddie.
No, but I like our rankings better than the computer rankings, though. When we had that graphic just up there side by side, I like ours better.
So, Chris, you want to uncross someone who? Make the case.
Here you go, Gruskin. You guys will say no. I know Maddie says no, but I'll put my vote in, and then, in a couple weeks when you want to come with me, that's fine. But here you go, Gruskin.
Uncross Kentucky. Super producer Daniel Westoff, make it so. Oh, he said that's hilarious. Westoff says I won't do it. He says he refuses. He says
thank you,
Kentucky.
Thank you, Westoff.
Here's the deal, and here's the thing with we've talked about South Carolina having no answer at 5 or 6. My take coming into the year and for the first half of the year was really the same with Kentucky. I had a problem with 5 and 6. I still have an issue with 6 for Kentucky. I've not seen Josh Lapadat play a match where he wasn't the second or third best player on any court at the match when I've been out there. He won against Florida when I went to watch him. This weekend, he destroyed whoever he played from Auburn. Then he goes and beats Perego 2-1. And this is the funny part. I walked away from that match watching Lapadat with Perego going, that kid Perego is going to be good. I mean, he's good. I know you said it, Gruskin. I watched him. Holy cow, does he have a game on him? And he got beat 2-1. And I honestly don't know how. Like, if you make me watch those guys hit, I will take Perego all day. And Lapadat he's great. And so I've seen enough now to say, hey, I haven't watched a fluke. He's the real deal at 5. If you throw him in as a real deal at 5 with what they already have in the top 4 and Diallo back, and I think that's just something with him that was, it was precautionary and he's fine. They're not like a 4 question mark. They've got a solid top 5, still a question at 6. And now it comes down to me is, can they play doubles? Cedric came to me between doubles and singles and said, I prayed last night. It worked. He goes, watch out. Kentucky wins doubles. Watch out. And he's right. If they can win doubles, super, super dangerous.
Here's the thing, though. Didn't we do a segment earlier today on what's Ohio State's answer at 6? I think a lot of these teams still have some question marks.
And that's why I'm saying if you get down to where your only question is 6, I'm okay.
Uncross.
When you have 5 and 6 as questions, I don't feel good about it.
No, I'm with you. I'm down to uncross. Maddie, though, and Westhoff make their decision. We're not crossing off Michigan. I can tell you that much.
No,
the Wolverines
absolutely
have certainly
not.
earned that right. Oh, uncrossed by super producer Daniel Westhoff.
The only other one on this list that we may consider would maybe be Georgia that I might cross off. But other than them, leave everything uncrossed. Everybody else is open.
Would you cross Georgia, Chris?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Then leave them open. Then leave them all open
for now. I will say this. It was a little backhanded, but I was talking about UCF women with head coach Brian Kanyeko, a podcast you can find on the Cracked Interviews podcast feed. You can also find, that I meant to plug it earlier, a full conversation with University of Michigan men's tennis head coach Adam Steinberg on all the success that team has had. But I made an observation about one of the freshmen in Coach Kanyeko's lineups, and he goes, "Oh, you really do watch tennis?" He goes, "Oh, you are observant." And I was like, well, yeah, like I do. And I will say this. I told you Lapadat was that good. I told you Mitsui was that good. I was wrong about Columbia. So I missed on a whole team, but on Mitsui and Lapadat, you could just tell right away the aggression.
Hey, you were wrong on Diaz too.
I mean, was I? But jury's still out. Jury's still out on if I'm wrong on Diaz. I said I was taking the L earlier. I'm no longer taking the L. With that said, again, that's where things stand. Let's look at the week ahead now, and there are a lot of fun matches happening across the country. We mentioned that Baylor TCU matchup. That's certainly one we will all have our eyes on. Wake Forest, NC State traveling to Virginia this weekend. That's exciting. Tennessee and Georgia at A&M. The Louisville, Notre Dame, UNC, Duke split. Some Stanford, USC, UCLA love. I'll start with you, Maddie. What are you watching most closely?
Yeah, no, I mean, all of those. Really, I mean, what's not to like, right?
VCU, Cornell, I'm in.
I don't know if I'm in on that one, but I mean, let's be real. I'm probably going to focus on the SEC and the ACC matches more than anything else.
Northwestern at Ohio State's pretty good too.
Yeah, that's true. That'll be an interesting one. Stanford and USC obviously is interesting in the Pac-12. We've got some other ones in there, but primarily, obviously I'm going to be tuned into Baylor and Duke for sure. This is another big weekend for Duke, I think, if they want to, look, Notre Dame and Louisville, these are two teams that if they want to get to where they want to go, let's go win these matches, Blue Devils. So we'll see.
Chris, there's also, Middle Tennessee, Texas Tech. That can be exciting. Again, VCU, Cornell, VCU taking on, I believe, USF as well, have some NCAA implications. Cal versus UCLA maybe is fun for inverse reasons. That Oregon, Washington, Utah trio, pretty fun. Am I missing anything? What are you watching most closely?
Well, I always start in the SEC and the interesting ones to me that I'll call out. Tennessee, basically, 3 in a row down. I don't think this is the weekend we see Monday back. I think it's maybe another week out still. If there's no Monday, a match at A&M could get tricky, right? I mean, look, they just played Auburn to a 4-3 match. Or I'm sorry, that was Kentucky. But they're coming off those 3 losses. A&M could be a tricky team outdoors if they don't have a Monday. It'll be a test, I will say, at a minimum. So I think that's an interesting match for me. I think in the ACC, in Maddie's neck of the woods, the Louisville weekend, after the big jump last weekend, they get the Carolina schools this weekend, or 2 of them anyway, in North Carolina and Duke. So I would think with both of those being on the road, if you're Louisville, you feel really good if you get a split, whichever way that manages to go. You'd want to come out of there not going 0-2 if you can. Back in the SEC, the other Friday one that really intrigues me, Auburn at Ole Miss. Auburn actually ranked higher than Ole Miss right now, which is, probably the first time in many years that's been the case playing. Weather looks good, so it looks to be an outdoor match, which will be critical for Auburn to be able to play with Ole Miss. You don't want to play those guys indoors. That has all the writings of just a really good and rowdy match, and we'll see how the Auburn guys respond. They didn't respond great indoors at Middle Tennessee with a rowdy crowd. They're going to need to have learned from that and turn it around if they want to try to win at Ole Miss. I'm a little intrigued down in the Big 12 with an Oklahoma-Texas match. It's at Texas. Texas should win.
Yep.
Oklahoma sort of feels like they made a push around that 7-0 A&M win, but then it's kind of just nothing. But it's one of those that, man, if those Oklahoma guys, if they all play to what they, their level they can play at, that could be tricky. And I'll just say in the SEC, is this Gruskin the weekend that Arkansas pulls off the big home win? It happens every year. They get Florida and South Carolina. It would be one of those monster wins if they manage to do it against either one of those two teams. I think it's asking a bit much to beat Florida.
Yeah.
South Carolina better be careful. Again, Arkansas is just a brutal place to go play. The wind is horrible. The crowd's on top of you. You're out in the middle of nowhere. You've traveled further to get there than any of your normal SEC trips. You're not, just the course of getting there is not great. It's always tough. I'll be interested to see if this is the weekend they pull it off. They do it every year. We thought they almost had it against Kentucky. They didn't pull it out. Do they get it this time?
South Carolina.
Yeah,
they could.
It could. That could be the one.
They're not beating Florida.
No, I don't see that happening either.
Well, I like that you bring these matches up, because with that in mind, let's talk about the matches we're going to have for you here on our Cracked Racquets Cross Court Cast. You look at our SEC coverage. That starts tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Certainly going to be fun to watch that Arkansas-Florida battle on the men's side. And, again, I think Mississippi State, they need that win now against Alabama. A Tennessee against A&M. I think A&M can absolutely knock off the Vols if there's no Johannes Monday. It's going to be a really fun Friday. And of course, you can follow all of that action on each of the team websites. Of course, as you look towards Sunday, our Big Ten action really picking up here this weekend. Again, we're going to have that Northwestern Ohio State men's match. We'll have Michigan, Wisconsin. We'll have Michigan State, Nebraska, Penn State, Illinois. Got juice for all of you this weekend as we try to provide college tennis the platform we know it deserves. Again, this Sunday broadcast available for all of you on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. With that said, that's everything, folks. Another week in the books. Fantastic week of college tennis. Of course, we'll be back next week to recap it all. And if you're looking for additional coverage, SEC Big Ten specific shows coming to you all this week on the Great Shot podcast feed. Conversations with UCS women's head coach Brian Kanyako, Michigan men's head coach Adam Steinberg, available on our Cracked Interviews podcast feed, and all that content available on the website crackedrackets.com. Of course, if you need the more immediate updates, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, we are at Cracked Racquets. You want to message me directly, I'm at AL Gruskin. A shout out as always to super producer Daniel Westhoff for the heck of a job he does day in, day out, making it possible for us to go live on YouTube. With that said, Michigan versus Villanova. Maddie, who you got tonight?
Well, in my bracket, I picked Nova. So we reseeded once we got to the Sweet 16 because my bracket was so busted after the first couple rounds. I picked Nova, but I think that was more just me really hoping that Michigan loses more than anything else. I do think Michigan has a chance, but I'm going to go with the coach that I trust a little bit more. You've got Juwan Howard and you've got Jay Wright for Nova. I'll go Villanova.
Fair. Chris?
Did you mean to win, or you were taking him in a fight?
Well, I will say this. Right now, here's what I'll say.
I'm hanging up.
Here's what I say. You look at the Cracked Racquets Challenge.
Oh,
your boy is sneaking closer and closer to first place. And if Michigan wins tonight, I think I may be in first.
Chris, that was fine.
You know what the key is there is I just ignore anything Chris says. That's
I
just
didn't.
the key, always.
That was great. And I'm with you, Maddie. I'll take Jay Wright too. Go.
Yeah. All right. Well, then with that said, look, no shots at Juwan. Okay. That's my guy. And I guess given we started 30 minutes celebrating, that's a good place to end. But with that in mind, of course, a shout out to our friends at SwingVision and Turna as well. You can learn more about SwingVision. Click on the link in the description to this podcast. Email sales@uniquesports.com to learn more about Turna. With all of that said, for my fantastic co-hosts, Matt the Crack Stachowiak, Chris Halioris, our super producer, Daniel Westoff, our friends at SwingVision and Turn On, from all of us here at both Cracked Racquets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. Gentlemen, what do we tell our listeners?
Hey, great shot.
Great shot.
And we will see you all next week. Go Blue!